Oh yeah.
やめてください。
You woke up and your body was ready. No schedule, no alarm, know where you need to be. You got out of bed and stretched. But then you found yourself wondering what to do today. For 300,000 years of human history, that question was asked every morning. And I bet you are wondering what our ancestors actually did all day. Simple. They just hunted and farmed to survive. Duh. Just kidding.
What?
In reality, it wasn't anything like we imagine today. Studies suggest that the modern human spend around 90,000 hours working. That means roughly 1/3 of your life is spent working. For most of human history, work could mean almost anything. It didn't mean being employed by someone. There was no salary. There were no boss, no career ladder. So now, it's time to answer the question we asked with everything we have learned so far. In 1963, an anthropologist, Richard Lee, published a study that would change the way we understand prehistoric life. He studied the life of indigenous people in Botswana, one of the groups whose way of life most closely resembled that of prehistoric human. The men of the tribe spent about 2.5 days each week searching for food, roughly 17 hours of work per week, and for the rest of the time, they were free to do as they please. And Botswana was far from the only example. It was also found among the Hadza of Tanzania, the Ed in Paraguay, the Matu in Australia. Despite being completely different in environment and culture, yes, they share one thing in common. They spend only about 20 hours a week working. To put that into perspective, you probably work about twice as much as a prehistoric human. But I can already hear the objection. They're still with the modern human, aren't they? Fair enough. Let's turn to the skeleton. Archaeologists compare the skeleton of ancient people with those of pre-agricultural human. The result was prehistoric farmers were often physically weaker. The skeleton showed clear signs of severe malnutrition. The teeth were riddled with cavity, the result of grain-heavy diet. Many showed signs of arthritis, likely linked to years of repetitive agricultural labor. As a result, they often die younger. The bones of ancient humans were more robust. Their teeth were healthier. They showed fewer signs of joint damage. This suggests they may have worked less, not more. But archaeology uncovers something even more intriguing. And it shouldn't have existed if survival had been a constant struggle. Art. In 1994, archaeologists discovered Chauvet Cave in southern France. Inside the cave were wall paintings dating back around 30,000 years. The painting depicted wild animals. The remarkable thing is that these were not crude doodle. It was a work of art. It requires skill and understanding. And most importantly, time. It served no purpose related to food or survival. It existed simply because it was beautiful. Another example comes from Bombo Cave in South Africa. Archaeology discovered shell fragments dating back roughly 100,000 years. The shell all had holes drilled into them, suggesting they were strung together at bead. Even more interestingly, the coastline was nearly 20 kilometers away from the cave, someone 100,000 years ago was walking nearly 40 kilometers a day just to collect shell, then spend an entire day drilling hole into the shell, an act that cost energy and time with no obvious benefit beyond beauty itself. Another example is Bond flute discovered in a cave in Germany. The person who made this flute must have understood the principle of music. Once again, it had nothing to do with survival, it was simply music. Or if there was no work left to do, they could turn to something a little more interesting. Hey, let's do something more fun.
One eternity later.
Boring. Let's do something more interesting.
Bruh.
Shut up, Gene! I'm not feeling it. Alright, I will show you how fire my ball can be. Yes, you're on fire. And this kind of discovery are far from uncommon. It has been found across all 5 continents. What they have in common are sophisticated too, not merely designed for survival. They made things, and this is what prehistoric people did when they weren't hunting. So, let's reconstruct a day from that time. You wake up in the morning. You start the morning with leftover fish or meat. Then you sit together at breakfast and talk about the day ahead. As midday approaches, a small group sets out to hunt. But not every day follows this pattern. If the hunt was successful and food was stored, there was no need to leave camp for several days. You would spend your free time doing the thing we mentioned earlier. That's what life was like back then. About 6 hours of daytime spent on chores or conversation. At night, people would gather and talk together. Life continued like this until 10,000 years ago when everything began to change. When humans began to farm and domesticate animals. It sounds incredible that humans could finally produce their own food, doesn't it? No! It's what a trap! A trap! Producing more food means you had to support more people. More people mean more food was needed. More food demand mean more farming was required. Population began to shrink and hunting alone was no longer enough. More food, more people, but also more problem. As a result, early farmers often work more, ate less, and die younger. But with growing population came new kind of work: blacksmith, potter, weaver. Then came administrator, soldier, and priest. And finally, job employment. Instead of hunting and controlling their own time to find food, we now trade our labor for resource by serving someone else. We chase status, wealth, and the need to prove ourselves to others, while our ancestors want to live life free from such concern. Something you may spend your entire life trying to achieve.